what's going on? So I'm super glad that I waited to talk about this because they just released the rest of the balance changes, like literally right now. And so I was going to start this video to talk about Spirit Master, obviously. And then I saw that when I went to go into the Discord so that I could pull that up immediately. And they did that as well. So let's talk about Spirit Master. I just maxed out my Spirit Master to 15, which is amazing because then when this patch drops, I will then be able to obviously showcase a max Spirit Master. I've been playing Spirit Master ever since I maxed it out. You can backtrace in my shorts where I maxed it out, and I've been basically playing it to go into PvP since then. I've gotten to 6225, and I didn't really want to push any higher, but it's good. I think that it's good. I was trying it out with Reaper, just because I don't have a high-level Witch. I have a level 11 Witch, which I thought would be, like, good enough, and I don't feel the difference. I don't feel like it's doing as much as it could. There's a lot of things about this deck that you need to do. You have to build up Night Statue stacks, you have to build up Witch stacks, you have to do Growth tiles, you have to remember to do Dryad stacks with the Fairy of Rage. There's a lot of moving parts in this deck, and it sometimes and without a Harley Quinn in this deck, because this Reaper spot is normally a Witch, without Harley Quinn, you're not getting extra Dryads, you're not being able to put things into place, and to slot them in places. And it's a very difficult deck to manage, but if you can, and if you get all of those benefits, it pushes you later and later into the game. So what are these changes? So one of the important changes is that originally I told people that Spirit Master is fine, but it only really gets good when you get to Storm Power, because Storm Power is the reason why you want to use Spirit Master. It's specifically for the cleanse. Life Surge is good, but Storm Power is the reason specifically why you want to use it, because being able to cleanse is very key in this game. So, telling somebody to invest into something that is that late into the game, telling somebody to invest in a event unit that you don't even care about until level 13 is kind of like telling somebody to invest into Zeus, but he's not even good until 15. And so what they decided to do was they decided to make Stone Power and Earth Power the level 7 talent, and then they changed Elixir of Life and Life Surge into one talent, and made the opposite talent the Storm Power talent, the one that you have to choose between. Actually, no, I guess they added something else too. What did they add? Storm Power and Flame Power is now a level 1. Oh, no, that's what it was. No! I just had it. Storm Power and Flame Power are now changed. That's what it was. And then the Cleanse Power is now called the Elixir of Purification. That's what changed. Okay. So originally, the Storm Power was the Purification. Purification is cut from the talent and moved to a separate talent of Ascension 2. The Storm Form lasts longer. It's now a level 1 Ascension, and it doesn't require 6 power-up to activate. So originally, you had to get you had to spend 500. The point where you would spend 500 is when you would activate Storm Power or Flame Power. Now, it activates whenever you do an activation, which makes a level 7 base. A level 9 first talent Spirit Master much better than what it used to be. Because originally, it just gave you either Elixir of Life or Life Surge, and where Life Surge is fine, it's a good talent, Spirit Master's attack interval was so long that it didn't... The attack interval was 0.6, which doesn't sound like a long amount of time, But in game, without a knight statue and without like a level 4, level 5 Spirit Master, it's really slow. It's much slower than you'd think. And so adding the Flame Power and Storm Power to the level 7 talent, or I'm sorry, the level 9 talent, is a big boost. And being able to activate it immediately once you do 1 power activation, level 2 power activation, level 3 power activation, just each one, as opposed to having to get to the 5 or 6 in order for it to activate and become like supercharged, is going to really help it in the early game. As well as them changing the attack interval. It's now going to attack faster. So Storm Power is now, it's the same attack speed increase percentage has been, the attack speed increase has been reduced. And that's specifically because the regular attack interval of the unit is decreasing. The lower the attack interval is, the faster your base attack will be. And by changing the base speed of your attack, they needed to nerf the Storm Power ability of it being like it giving you more attack speed. So it gives you more attack speed. It just doesn't give you as much as it does now. But the balance of being able to have it at level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, like much earlier, is the thing that is the real bonus here. Flame Power is now a level 1 Ascension talent, does not require. The level reduction in this form decreases the level to the minimum, bypassing the intermediate levels of mana power up, which means that originally, like I said before, levels 1 through 5 didn't matter, and then it was level 6 when it finally activated. The talent also increases damage with each Mastery and Fire form. So basically what this is, the short version of this is that Storm Power gives you more speed, Flame Power gives you better attack, and you just get to pick. There's a part of me that says that better attack speed is better, and that's why everybody runs Spear, because if you can attack faster, you are dealing more damage than if you are base dealing more damage. I think we're just going to have to test this out to see which one is better, because if the more damage is just significantly more damage, and because you're using Knight Statue anyway, that might be the better option. But I think this just feels like it's just going to be a testing thing, and that's when you'll determine which one is the better one. Elixir of Life and Life Surge, like I said, has been combined into one talent. So this used to be 2 separate talents. It is now just the same thing. And the thing that you are choosing between, because that is now a power combination, being able to get the 30% chance refunded, like everything that you have just spent into Spirit Master. Spirit Master is a very mana-intensive card, because all of its power is in the level ups that you have to keep paying into. And so having a 30% chance for that activation to be free is huge. Whereas Life Surge is free level ups just every so often. It was never a good amount of like being able to level it up. It was never like a significant percentage. Like 15% it's not going to happen all the time. But the fact that it does happen, and the fact that whenever you activate Spirit Master above a level 5, and it just has the chance to activate it every single time above that from 5 to 10, that was what made it big. And the fact that even though this deck runs Scrapper and you have the ability to upgrade everything pretty easily to level 7, when you get to the late game, decks tend to lose to Tribunals. At a certain point, you just can't insta-kill Tribunals because the damage, the health that it has is just so much that eventually you will stop being able to insta-kill Tribunals. And if you can't insta-kill a Tribunal and half your field just gets negative or downgraded 1 level, what ends up happening is that starts to compound. So all of your things are level 6, and then you have to kill another boss after that, because at that point you're at like triple bosses. Then you have to kill like a dark priest, and then you have to kill a king pudding, and now all of your things are 6s. And then, like, let's say the next level you get red guide, and then now it's a 5, and then you hit another tribunal, now it's a 4. It all starts to compound. And that is one of the main reasons why Zeus is so good. Being able to activate an ability to where your thing just levels up, because you can scrapper it, but like having to target scrapper like 3 units, and you know, like scrapper is random, so you can't target any unit. And then at that point you're also paying mana into scrapper, and you need the mana to use the Spirit Master's level ups. It just starts to compound like late game when you get like late game tribunaled. So the level up ability, even though the 15% is not great, the fact that it is free, quote unquote free, the fact that it's free is the thing that makes it good. But now you're having to choose between that or purifying negative effects. I'm almost positive that you would rather choose Life Surge and Elixir of Life and then just run Mermaid than running Elixir of Purification and then running Mari. Because I think that those are the two options. You either run Purification and Mari and you just manually level up everything, or you run Elixir of Life and Life Surge and then you run Mermaid. I'm pretty positive that's the better option. And then to just have counter spells on some of your equipment, I think that's the better option. I could be wrong about this, but that's what I'm gonna try when this finally drops. I think, but if Mermaid becomes the new version of this deck that everybody starts running, I think there's a good chance that they might nerf Mermaid, because this deck, the Spirit Master deck, is one of the only decks that uses something other than a Mermaid and a Zeus. I feel like the Meteor deck runs Mari as well, but if the Spirit Master deck also starts running Mermaid, and every deck basically runs Mermaid or Zeus, I think there's a chance that they nerf Mermaid, because then it'll look like everybody just uses Mermaid. We have to nerf this card, so other people use something else. Or they might buff Mari, which would be weird because they just nerfed Mari because of Meteor decks. I don't know. I think that there's probably going to be people that try to run Elixir of Purification in Mari, because the cleanse is, maybe it's just better. The consistent cleanse might just be better. I do like the combined idea of Elixir of Life and Life Surge, and then just running Mermaid. Mari is essentially infinite damage, and it gives you an additional win condition when you get to that late game period, because Spirit Master is a very late game card. It doesn't really start to shine until the late game. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But my idea that I'm going to do is Elixir of Life, Life Surge, and then Mermaid. I think that's just... And then you're getting bonus attack speed with Mermaid as well, and you're getting additional crit chance if you get it to 15. I think the benefits of a Mermaid in this deck... And you're getting... And the bubbles are providing you mana. It's not a lot of mana, but it is mana as well. I think it does a lot of things to fix not having Elixir and Life Surge, and then you're still getting the benefits of both. You can't replace... Actually... Oh, is that what's going to happen? I don't know why it just occurred to me right now. I was like, you can replace the Purification with Mermaid. You can't replace the level up ability. Oh, yes, you can. You just use Zeus and Elixir of Purification. Oh, that's what the deck is going to be now, isn't it? I'm pretty sure that's what the deck is. I don't know. I don't know why that didn't. That just occurred to me right now. That's probably what's going to be the next the Spearmaster deck. It's going to be Zeus and Elixir of Purification, and the budget version is going to be like Elixir of Life and Life Surge, and then Mermaid. Oh well, it's been fun. Stone Power and Earth Power are now things as well. Originally, the one that Stone Power, originally it just gives you a 40% chance to throw a boulder at an enemy unit, and then they get stunned for 4 seconds. But the thing that you were sacrificing is you had no way of dealing with the waves, and so that's why most people ran Earth Power. It was just, you're dealing so much damage to bosses and to waves, and it's giving you area of effect damage, that for most people, it felt like the better option. If you had high crit and high gear and everything, a lot of late game people were running Stone Power because it's better to affect your opponent, because the Spirit Master deck has no way of affecting your opponent. It's just a can I out damage you kind of deck. And so basically, any deck that it couldn't out damage, like a Riding Hood deck, you just basically lost to. Because if you can't out damage with your damage based deck, you just lose. And so, in order for decks, or for Spirit Master decks to compete with higher damage decks, they started to run Stone Power. But the negative version of, or the negative effect of that is that they didn't have any way of hitting monsters, and now you do. So Stone Power has a chance to throw a boulder that deals additional damage to monsters in a small area. The amount of damage depending on the master's initial damage. Why do these look the same? Why does the wording on both of these look the same? I know that they're not the same. Unless they changed it and it's not a toxic talent anymore. What was the toxic talent? Stone Power. Did they change Stone Power? Has a chance to throw a boulder that deals additional damage to monsters in a small area. I think that it's still going to have the same thing. I think they just omitted it and just added what the change is going to be. I think it's still going to throw, my idea is that it still throws a boulder at your opponent, but it also gives you a boulder that deals additional damage to monsters in a small area. And it depends on the Spirit Master's initial damage. Whereas the Earth Power boulder has now also been changed. It scales with the Master's initial damage. Previously, it was always 1,500 damage. It also gradually reduces the monster's armor. So they made the Earth Power better because it scales higher, and it also does damage defense reduction. And then the other one, they added a boulder that hits the field. It has a chance to throw a boulder that also hits the field as well. And so you could use the toxic talent and it still gives you a crowd control benefit. And then the Earth Power is just the crowd control, but it's also much better because it does defense reduction. I think this is going to make people use Stone Power late game. I think the late game people who are pushing against like Riding Hood decks, I think they're going to use Stone Power, and now Stone Power is better for them. But I think that if you were using Earth Power to deal like just massive damage to the waves, I think the Earth Power is going to be like infinitely better. It scales better. It deals damage reduction. And I think Afren Gaming was joking that he was going to do like a damage reduction deck, because this now reduces monsters' defense, and then Night Statue also reduces monster defense, and then you could run a Chemist with the deck, and that reduces monsters' defense, so that they just have 0 defense, and you're just wiping out every single monster. Like, you'll start like just ripping through Bannerlords like they're nothing, which I think is really funny. But I think specifically Earth Power is going to give a lot of damage to this deck. And then Critical Might also changed. The critical attack chance increases at level 6 and 9 of your mana power-ups. Originally, I believe it was flat damage. It was a flat percentage. Increases the chance of critical damage by... Oh, it was 0.4 for each mana power-up. Apparently, it's now just going to be an increase at 6 and 9, as opposed to 0.4 each time. It depends on what those numbers are, but that could be better, I suppose. It forces you to get to those thresholds, as opposed to giving you a flat percentage before those thresholds. So you get like no benefit before 6, and then you get a big benefit at 6, and then you get a big benefit at 9. I think that's how what they're trying to do with it. Overall, I do think it's better. Like I said earlier, I think that there's going to be the 2 different versions of this deck, and it's either going to be the budget version of Elixir of Life and Life Surge with Mermaid, or the end game like maxed out version with Elixir of Purification and Zeus. I'm really interested to see what's better for it, either Storm Power or Flame Power. I think that endgame players are going to use Earth Power, and I think that... are going to use Stone Power. And I think that if you are earlier in the game and you just want to deal more damage, Earth Power is going to be insane. It feels like Earth Power and Flame Power and just doing mass damage all the time might be the way to go. But I guess we'll see. I don't know. There's a lot of factors. There's a lot of numbers. Sometimes something can look good on paper, and then you play it, and it's bad, or the opposite. Like, it looks bad, and then it's really, really good. So I guess we'll see. But then the other thing that I wanted to talk about in this way too long video, they also updated all of this. Genie initial damage now does significantly less from 700 to 500. Damage increase with unit level is now more significant, 20 to 25.3. Vortex has been reduced from 5 to 357. Magic Fist initial damage has been reduced from 175 to 125. All of these are basically nerfs, and they're pretty significant nerfs. Like, usually it's like, it's really close numbers, like maybe 700 to 600, or 700 to 650. 700 to 500 is significantly less, like they said. The damage increase with unit level is now more. I feel like that is just going to balance out the other thing. The Vortex being less from 5 to 357 feels significant as well. That's like 150 less. The Vortex was one of the best things about Genie. At low levels, the Genie is the best unit overall. It has great popularity and high win rates. This is achieved due to high base damage that allows beating the first few waves easily. Since the number of waves in the early league is low, the Genie has 2 stark advantage with these changes. We're keeping the Genie's damage at high level while improving the balance in the game's variability at low level. So basically, if you have a Genie that's even kind of okay, you're doing way too well with it right now. And so they're nerfing it at low levels, and it's basically going to do nothing to it at high levels. So if you are playing people who have Max Genie, you're not going to see any kind of difference. But if you are playing, like level 7, level 9 Genies, that you're going to have a better chance at beating those. The Riding Hood Alpha... Oh, So these were the 2 talents that people used. It was the Alpha Riding Hood and then the Scarecrow. Damage increase below 40 charges goes from 0.4 to 0.3. See, what did I tell you? Like, a lot of people think that Riding Hood, that the nerf to Riding Hood and Genie were going to be like, oh, this is going to make this thing useless. And I was like, they would have to make significant changes for it to change at all. And basically, both of these nerfs are basically nothing. They're still going to be the best. They're still going to be amazing. Everybody's still going to use it, and everybody's still going to win. Damage increase below 40 charges goes from 0.4 to 0.3. You're not even going to notice that. Damage increase above 40 charges goes from 0.15 to 0.1. Like, it's a 0.5 difference, and then the other one is a 0.1 difference. You're not even going to notice either of these. Armor reduction base and per each rank goes from 5% to 3%. I feel like that's a significant change, but I don't necessarily know if the armor reduction on Scarecrow was what's making that deck good. It has Night Statue, it has Witch to do insta kills, and it attacks so fast that it has the ability to just rip through everything. I don't think the armor reduction, it's a big difference, but I don't think it's what's making the deck good. If the Genie has taken the spot on the strongest unit at lower levels, then the Riding Hood edges ahead at higher levels and in the leagues. The Hood's strongest suit is her mechanic of absorbing units of any rank, which makes building the field that much easier and allows taking on an additional damage increasing support unit, such as Chemist or Trapper. We've changed this unit's talents with the same intention of increasing the number of different decks encountered at high levels of gameplay. You're not going to see different decks at high level of gameplay. It's basically not even a change. It's a nerf, but it's not a nerf. It's still far and above everything else. It's still doing so much more than everything else that it doesn't matter. If something can deal 200 billion damage and your deck does 10 billion damage, changing a unit that does 200 billion damage to 175 billion damage, it's not gonna change anything. There's nothing that can deal the amount of damage that a Riding Hood does in terms of pure base damage. When you see two Riding Hood decks go against each other that are basically equally matched in terms of max units and crit power, it's basically not even a change. They're just gonna do less to each other. That's the only, and they're just gonna wipe out everybody else. The number of monsters required to enrage is reduced from 7 to 5 on Bruiser. I don't use Bruiser because mine is a level 9. Are they talking about Furious Brotherhood? The number of monsters required to enrage is reduced from 7 to 5. The chance to enrage... Oh, I know what that is. I was like, what talent is this? It's the amount of enemies on the field. The amount of monsters required to enrage is reduced from 7 to 5. It's because getting 7 monsters on the field is very difficult because you should be deleting every monster. And so changing it to 5 monsters on the field makes it significantly better. And then chance to enrage is 15% as soon as 5 monsters are on the field. I think that's much better. Yeah. Unlike many other units specialized in dealing damage, the Bruiser is inconsistent damage due to the random factors of the enrage mechanic. At times, players might run into a situation where none of the Bruisers on the field would enrage, with few monsters on the path, which might sour the impression left by this unit. We want to fix and make the Bruiser's damage more consistent during battle, so we hope that this will improve his stats, and thus his popularity with players. It's not. Bruiser still has the idea that you need monsters on the field for it to be good. And then it just like stuns itself. When it is done with being enraged, then it stuns itself. So not only do you have to put yourself at a disadvantage to where you're not killing the waves in order for it to go into superpower mode, but then when it finally does go into superpower mode, if the waves die, right? If the waves keep going, then it stuns itself. It's giving your opponent a free sharpshooter. It's just stunning itself, let alone with all the sharpshooters that are running around. And if they stun you while you're in that phase, can you imagine that? How much of a disadvantage that is? I think Bruiser as a unit is not great. I think it's really good if you are playing like really early on in the game. I don't think it's good, and I think that's why people stop using it. It's a unit that doesn't attack all the time, and when it does attack, it stuns you. And I don't think, and with every other unit, like a Riding Hood, like a Genie, that just constantly attacks at its strongest for the whole game, that's the reason why they're good. That's the reason why they're the best. It's the reason why you don't see a Catapult deck. Attacking every 3 seconds is not a great look. It's the reason why High Arcanist is not great. If a unit is disadvantaging itself by not being able to attack at its full strength all the time, it's a problem. And I don't think that this is going to change people to using Bruiser. I think people that were using Bruiser at low level, they're still going to use Bruiser at low level. I don't think this is going to make it like some meta card or anything. The base mechanic of Clock of Power, this is a big one. I thought that this was going to be a big one. The Clock of Power now decreases in PvP or increases in co-op the attack speed of units owned by another player, depending on the combined rank of every Clock of Power you control. Before this, the attack speed altering effects of the Clock of Power were multiplied. Attack speed increased per merge rank, 2% to 1.5. Increase per mana power-up goes from 0.5 to 0.15. Attack speed reduction per mana power-up, minus 1% to 0.5%. I like that they included Dragon Rift and Plunder, which means that you can Clock of Power yourself in those modes. I think that's kind of interesting. I don't think people are going to use it for that. But I think that that's interesting. They had to change Clock of Power because it's too good. And I feel like they're constantly nerfing this thing because it's so good. For one thing, the unit gives a markedly distinct variant of gameplay, yet it has exceedingly low popularity at level 7 to 9, as well as creating a negative effect that your opponent has no way of countering. The previously used mechanic increased effectiveness with the additional clocks on your field, not with their ranks, which in our opinion runs counter to the base concept of gameplay. Besides the latest improvement to the Inquisitor has strongly impacted the clock's popularity because of strong synergy with the Knight of Darkness talent. Because of this, we've decided to change the mechanic so that the merge ranks are more important while playing with the clock. I feel like merge rank was always good. I don't think this is going to change this. I think it's still going to be good. 2% to 1.5%, it's a difference. But I feel like it has exceedingly low popularity at level 7 to 9, as well as no way of countering. It's still going to have exceedingly low popularity at level 7 to 9 because clock only does one thing, and it needs to be better at that one thing in order for you to even want to use it. For example, a Wind Archer only deals damage. A level 7 Wind Archer, you're probably never going to use. You will only use it if you have a max Wind Archer because it deals the most damage at that level. That's the only time that you would ever consider even using it because it only does one thing. And you just need that one thing that it does to be better. I don't think this is going to change it. in any significant way. I think Dark Inquisitor decks are still going to run it. Tesla decks are still going to run it. Robot decks are still going to run it. It does just the one thing that no other unit does. I mean, you could say that Boreas does it with the sleep arrows. I don't think this is going to change anything. I think they just wanted to make that specific deck a little bit weaker, but it's still going to be good. And like I said, Riding Hood and Genie are still the best units. The only decks that fought against it are Clock decks, and they're slight nerfing Clock. And Clock decks still didn't kill Riding Hood decks before. They're not going to kill them now. I honestly think most of these changes are not going to do anything to this game. Like, you're still going to see all of the top decks beat the same top decks. They might do a little bit less damage. They might last a little bit. The matches might be a little bit shorter. I don't think any of these changes are going to matter at all. Sharpshooter Stun Shot. The number of targets is no longer increased with the merge rank. The talent has gone unchanged for a long time, still since the Sharpshooter has been gaining in popularity, and the endless stunning of almost every unit on the field was greatly inconvenienced players, were reducing the power of this talent. The number of targets is no longer increased with the merge rank. Are you saying that it doesn't matter how big your Sharpshooter is, it doesn't do any more than 1? That's a huge nerf. That's a giant nerf. Because obviously you can't have 15 Sharpshooters on your board in order to Sharpshooter them, like Stun Shot them. Yeah, that's a crazy buff, or a crazy nerf. That's an insane nerf. I feel like, ironically, this isn't the reason why I thought that this was going to be nerfed. I thought it was going to be nerfed because of the Sharpshooter deck. The one that deals damage. The explosive rounds version of the deck. Wow, I think people aren't going to use this anymore. That's an insane nerf. If all that matters is the amount of Sharpshooters, and each of them only stun shots one thing, that's a huge nerf. That's crazy. Sharpshooter, Shrapnel, fixed an error in the talent's damage calculation. Maybe that's why it was doing so good. I feel like maybe that's the reason why it was doing so good. Portal Mage, the percentage damage from the hard landing talent is considered area damage and is no longer transferred repeatedly by the unstable connection ability. Maybe that's the reason why it was doing so good in those decks. I feel like these 3 changes are going to be the biggest changes that you will see in the meta. And everything else probably doesn't even matter. That's how I feel about this. That Sharpshooter change is really big, though. I feel like people aren't going to use it for Stun Shot anymore. But yeah. I guess we'll find out when we are able to play with these cards. I'm really excited for Spirit Master. Everything else feels like it's not really that big of a change. Genie is still going to be good. Riding Hood is still going to be good. Bruiser, people are still not going to use Bruiser. Clock of Power is going to be the same. The Sharpshooter change is insane. And that Sharpshooter change is insane. But yeah, I guess